As Canada battles wildfires in 10 of 13 provinces and territories, there are renewed calls for a more comprehensive national approach to fighting fires. But one protest group that's been calling for exactly that kind of approach says an even bigger response is now needed.
So we've been calling for a national firefighting agency, and now we've actually pivoted and we're calling it a climate disaster protection agency, because it is not even just wildfires, it's floods, droughts, heat waves. Again and again and again, we are seeing a pattern, which is that the climate crisis was originally knocking on our door and now it's invited itself into our homes.
Last Generation Canada has been demanding a national firefighting agency for 3 years. Right now, wildfires are the responsibility of provinces and local governments. The federal government only gets involved when provinces request help. Last Generation Canada says that the Canadian military has called for help every year, proves this model isn't working. At least one premier is also calling for a wider solution.
We need a large national fire strategy. We seem to be going through this every single year, if not ourselves and out in Manitoba, if you remember last year, and a little bit in Saskatchewan and Alberta and BC and Quebec. Right now in Nova Scotia, so right across the country in fire season.
Ontario's Doug Ford says when Canada's premiers meet in PEI later this week, they'll talk about a national approach to fighting wildfires. British Columbia NDP MP Gord had called for some kind of national fire administration last year and says that was aimed at better integrating fire chiefs into making policy around wildfires.
You know, at a time of a national climate emergency, people need to be pulling in the same direction. And it's certainly not the time, as we saw Donald Trump, for jurisdictional disputes or political blame. It's time for cooperation, shared resources, and practical actions.
City News reached out to the Office of Emergency Management Minister Eleanor Olszewski. In a statement, a spokesperson for the minister said the federal government is strengthening preparedness and response capacity, adding that Budget 2025 included funding to lease firefighting aircraft to create new federal surge capacity, and the minister announced the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre leased 10 new firefighting aircraft for the next 5 years. Shaoli Lee, City News, Ottawa.